I wish I could tell you that moving into this apartment was a choice, that it was some brave attempt to start over after a breakup. But the truth is, I didn't choose anything. Life shoved me out. My last relationship ended so violently, not with fists, but with words sharp enough to bruise a soul, that I found myself dragging 2 half-broken suitcases down 3 flights of stairs at midnight, the rain soaking through my clothes as if the sky itself wanted me gone too. My best friend, Emily, let me crash on her couch for a couple of nights. She tried to make jokes to lighten the mood, tried to convince me that this was just a reset button, but even she could see it in my face. I wasn't okay. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't eating. I felt like someone had carved a hole in my chest and just walked away. So when I found a 3-bedroom apartment listed for almost nothing less than half the price of anything else in the city, I didn't think. I didn't question it. I just signed the papers, packed my things, and told myself this was the fresh start I needed. I didn't know then that I was sealing myself into something far worse than heartbreak. I didn't know that I wouldn't be allowed to leave. Not by the contract. And not by something living inside the building. I can't leave this place. I'm telling you now, not because I don't want to, but because something in this building won't let me. I moved in on a gray afternoon, the kind where the sky looks like it's holding back tears. The building itself was old, not charming old, but tired old. The kind of place that felt like it had seen too much and wasn't interested in making new memories. My unit was on the 3rd floor, apartment 3B. The hallway smelled faintly of bleach and something metallic, like rust or dried blood. I tried to ignore that, just get through today. Primera, told myself, 1 box at a time. The living room was bigger than I expected. 3 bedrooms, 1 I'd turn into a workspace, 1 into storage, 1 to sleep in. It felt like maybe, just maybe, this could be okay. Then I saw the letter. It was sitting neatly in the middle of the kitchen counter, placed so deliberately that it almost felt staged. The paper was yellowed, edges curled, like it had been handled 100 times. The handwriting was rushed, shaky as if the writer had been sweating while writing it. At the top, in capital letters, rules for living in the apartment complex. I let out a breathy laugh. Of course, the suspiciously cheap apartment came with a list of rules. This felt like something straight out of one of those Reddit rules horror stories I read, but the laugh died a little when I read the first few lines. "What the hell?" I whispered. This wasn't quirky. This wasn't harmless. This felt like paranoia written in ink. But the weirdest part, the back really did have a prayer printed on it, something old Latin, I think neatly typed like it belonged in a church pamphlet. For a long minute, I just stood there, pressing the heel of my hand against my forehead. My breakup, my exhaustion, the rain, the couch, it all crashed into me at once. Maybe someone's idea of a joke, maybe some weird tradition from the previous tenant. Maybe hell, I didn't know. I folded the paper, set it on the counter, and forced myself to breathe. "You're fine, John," I said out loud, because the sound of my own voice was grounding. "You're tired. You're stressed. You read too many horror stories on Reddit. It's just a stupid note. To prove it to myself? Primera, ma de coffee?" My hand shook so badly I spilled some across the counter. I pretended not to notice. Then I turned on the TV loud, something familiar, something brainless, anything to drown out the echo of those rules in my head. But even as I unpacked boxers and tried to settle in, I kept glancing toward the folded letter, as if it were watching me, as if it were waiting. And somewhere deep in my gut, a place I didn't want to acknowledge, I felt the first flicker of something cold. Not fear, recognition. Like a part of me already knew. Those rules were real. I didn't sleep that first night, not even a minute. Every time I tried closing my eyes, that hollow knocking replayed in my skull, as clear as if the door were still trembling under my hand. 3 knocks, slow, heavy, intentional, and whatever made them whited. Ile. I kept telling myself the house was old wood shifts. That wind finds strange ways to crawl through cracks. But, deep down, I knew what I heard wasn't the sound of a house breathing. It was the sound of something calling, something that already knew my name. By morning, I was exhausted enough that my bones hurt. The sunlight looked pale through the curtains, like even the day wasn't sure it wanted to step inside with me. I dragged myself to the kitchen and brewed coffee just to feel something warm against my fingers. That's when I noticed the door. The same door that had shaken under those knocks. The wood around the frame looked different, like it had bulged outward during the night. Small splinters dusted the floor beneath it. I crouched down and brushed my thumb against the grain. It felt rugged, almost borne, as if something had pressed against it from the inside, clawing to get out. I stood up so fast my knee cracked. "Get a grip," I muttered. "This place is old houses warp. That's all." But the lie tasted metallic, thin, breakable. The day dragged on with a heaviness I couldn't shake. Every sound in the house echoed too long. Every shadow lingered too dark. I kept catching myself glancing over my shoulder as if someone were standing behind me. By late afternoon, I finally worked up the courage to call the landlord. He didn't answer. I tried again. Straight to voicemail. So I left a message calm, polite, pretending I wasn't quietly coming apart inside. But when I hung up, the quiet of the house felt different. Tighter, like the walls were listening, like they were pleased. I decided to check the basement. I don't know why. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was stupidity. But every corner of the house felt wrong except that one door beneath the stairs, the one I hadn't opened yet. The handle was cold, much colder than it should have been. Still, I turned it. The door swung open with a low groan. A staircase descended into a darkness so thick it looked almost physical. The air pouring out was stale and unmoving, like the darkness had been sealed there for years. I swallowed hard and stepped down. Wheat HS deep. The temperature dropped. Wheat X step. The silence deepened until it pressed against my ears like water. Halfway down, something strange happened. The house, this heavy, suffocating house, suddenly felt very far away, as if the basement existed under a different kind of gravity. One that pulled at me, and then I heard it. Not a knocking, a whisper, soft, almost gentle, a woman's voice, close, too close, don't go. Primera, frost, My breath stuck in my throat. The whisper drifted upward along my spine, as though spoken directly into the back of my neck. Don't go. My knees weakened so violently I had to grip the railing. My fingers dug into the cold metal. "Who's there?" I whispered back, though every cell in my body begged me not to. Silence. But not an empty silence. A watching silence. I backed up the steps as quietly as I could, refusing to turn my back to the dark. The moment I reached the top, I slammed the door shut and leaned against it, panting. The house shifted around me, floorboards creaking like footsteps in slow motion. Idina opened the basement again. Primera vez yo entro. Not after that voice. Not after how close it had felt. That night was worse. Far worse. I wasn't even trying to sleep. I sat in the living room with all the lights on, an open book in my lap that I wasn't reading. My ears were doing all the work, waiting for another sound. It came at 2:30 a.m., but not at the door this time. It came from inside the walls. Tood, a single heavy sound deep within the wood. My body locked up. Then another tooth. Closer. Moving. Then another tooth. Right behind me. My chest tightened so painfully I had to gasp for breath. I turned slowly, every muscle trembling, expecting to see a fist-shaped dent forming in the drywall. But the wall was smooth, untouched. The sound came again this time, directly below my feet. Tood, tood, tood. Slow, deliberate, like something crawling beneath the floorboards, learning the map of my home. Learning my movements, I stumbled back, knocking over the lamp. The room plunged into darkness. My heart kicked so hard it drowned out the next thud, but not the one after. Silence. The kind of silence that means something is waiting. I didn't move for a full minute. When I finally reached the lamp and switched it on, the room felt wrong. Tilted the air heavier. And 10. From the kitchen came the soft creak of a door opening by itself. A cold ripple crawled across my skin. Slowly, with the kind of caution you reserve for wild animals, I stepped into the hallway and peered toward the kitchen. The pantry door was open. Wide. I hadn't touched it all day, and on the floor spilled across the tiles was a handful of rice. Not scattered randomly. Arranged in a shape. A circle with 3 small lines drawn inside it. 3 knocks. A mensaje. Or a warning. Or a promise. Whatever it meant, I knew one thing. Something in this house wanted my attention, and it wasn't done knocking. I didn't touch this circle of rice on the floor. Primera kudunte. My brain kept trying to make sense of it, kept trying to be logical, rational, sane, but my body knew better. My body recognized the shape for what it was. A sign. A ritual. A message meant for me. And I didn't want to know what kind. I grabbed my keys, threw on a jacket, and stepped outside just to breathe air that didn't feel borrowed. The cold hit me instantly, sharp and grounding. For a few seconds, it felt like the world finally snapped back to normal. Then I saw him across the street, half hidden under the flickering street lamp, stood an old man in a long, dark coat. He wasn't facing me, he was facing my house. Staring, otite italiano, unmoving. The street was empty, silent. I could hear the blood in my ears louder than the wind. I took a step back. The old man did not. He didn't twitch, didn't take tune, didn't breathe, just stared at my home like it was something he recognized. Or fear. I cleared my throat. Sir, are you okay? Not in? Do you need help? Still nothing. But the moment I spoke, the street lamp above him flickered twice, then stayed dark. The figure was swallowed by the shadows. Gonna host like that. A part of me wanted to run back inside and slam the door. Another part wanted to keep walking until the town disappeared behind me. But the cold air steadied me. Enough to think, enough to remember that the landlord still hadn't decayed back, enough to feel something new blooming under the fear. Unger, I wasn't crazy. Something was happening in that house, and I wasn't going to keep pretending it was old wood or pressure changes. So I marched back inside, grabbed my phone, and searched the landlord's name. No website, no social media, no listings except the original one. I'd answered. Where? Then I noticed something at the bottom of the rental ad. A small line I hadn't paid attention to before. Available immediately. Previous tenant relocated. Relocated. Not moved out. Not transferred. Not even evicted. Relocated, a word that tried too hard to be harmless. A chill slid through my stomach, slow and deliberate. The next morning, I went looking for answers. I'd only been in this neighborhood a week, but I had seen a small cafe a few streets over, the kind of place where everyone knew everything about everyone. If anyone had gossip, it'd be there. The bell over the door chimed as I stepped in. Warm light, the smell of cinnamon, soft chatterette, all felt painfully normal compared to the weight sitting on my shoulders. The barista, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes, smiled at me. "You're new. I haven't seen you around." "Yeah," I said, "just moved into the house on Alder Street." Her smile faltered. It was small, barely a shift. But primera sa W italiano. Everyone sees it. Everyone notices when someone is trying not to react. "Oh," she said carefully. That place, not oh, nice area, not welcome to the neighborhood." No one says that place unless there's a story behind it. I leaned closer. "You know something about it." She hesitated, wiped her hands on her apron, looked around as if checking who might overhear. "People don't stay long," she finally said. "Always say the house is strange." "Strange? How?" She shook her head. "Just strange." That wasn't an answer. That was fear wearing polite clothing. "What about the last tenant?" I pressed. "The listing said they relocated. Do you know where they went?" Her eyes flicked away. "No one really talked to him. He kept to himself." I stared at her. She stared at her coffee machines. Both of us knew she was avoiding the truth. Then she added, quieter, "Some people say he left in the middle of the night." "Left? Not relocated?" "Left." I swallowed. "Hardly." The woman opened her mouth, but before she could speak, the bell above the cafe door chimed. A man stepped inside. Tall, heavy coat, wool hat pulled low, Wenesa, Mehi, stopped walking. Then smiled. Not friendly, not warm, a knowing smile. Like he could smell the house on me. He walked straight to the barista and ordered something, but he didn't look away. "Not onse." His voice was low, like gravel. "Cold night ahead. You should head home early." The barista stiffened. My skin prickled. The man collected his drink, tipped his hat to me, and left. The moment the door shut, the barista let out a breath she'd been holding. "You should go," she whispered urgently. "Please, please." "Why?" "Who was that?" "He lives 2 houses down from you," she said. "And ever since the basement door in that house started opening on its own, he's been different." My lungs tightened. Basement door. Mine had done the same. "Does he know what happened to the last tenant?" I asked. She swallowed. "He's the one who found him." My blood turned to ice. "How?" I asked. "What happened to him?" She hesitated, eyes glistening, like she was choosing between protecting me and protecting herself. Finally, she whispered, "He said the house marked him." The words hit me like a blow. Mark it. A word heavy enough to drag the room into silence. What does that even mean? I breathed. She shook her head, terrified to continue. But it didn't matter because something behind me shifted. Very quietly, the same sound my pantry door had made the night before. Wood bending, air moving. But this time, it wasn't coming from inside my house. It was coming from inside the cafe. I turned slowly. One of the backroom doors, a storage closet, was cracked open. Just an inch. A cold draft leaking through. And on the tile floor, a single grain of rice. White, clean, perfect. My heartbeat misfired. The barista covered her mouth. Oh God, no. I stepped back, legs trembling. But before either of us could speak, 3 soft knocks came from the other side of the storage door. Not loud, not violent, just enough to say, Primera, found you. The knocks froze the entire cafe. Soft, like someone or something was tapping, only to remind me it existed. I stared at the storage door, praying the barista would laugh it off and say it was the wind, or the pipes, or anything normal. But her face drained of color. She backed up until she hit the counter. You need to leave. Now. Why? What's happening? You're marked, she whispered. Just like he was. Cold adrenaline shot up my spine. I don't even know what that means. You don't have to. She grabbed my wrist. Her hand was shaking. Just go. If you stay, it will follow you inside here. And that door, she glanced behind me. It doesn't open for no reason. The knocking stopped. For a moment, the silence felt thicker than the air like. The room was holding its breath. Then a whisper slid through the crack in the door. Not a voice, not words. Just breathing, slow, wet, too close. I stumbled back, nearly knocking over a chair. I'm calling the police, I said, more to steady myself than anything. The barista shook her head frantically. No police. They won't come. And even if they did, they don't deal with Alder Street anymore. Not since... She stopped herself. Not since what? I didn't wait to find out. I shoved the cafe door open and ran outside into the cold. The moment the door shut behind me, the air felt lighter, like the world had But the sudden quiet was worse. Empty, expectant, like the street was listening. I headed toward home on instinct, boots crunching against the thin layer of frost on the sidewalk. Every house felt like it was watching me. Windows too dark, shades too still. And then, halfway down the block, something moved in the corner of my vision. Not fast, not surprising, just standing. The same old man from last night. Same long coat, same posture, facing my house. Not my house. I didn't realize I'd stopped walking until my breath fogged in place. The man heard the crunch under my shoes and finally turned. His face emerged from the shadows. And the first thing I noticed was that he had no eyes, just sunken indentations where they should have been. Batsomeo. He still looked at me. My lungs locked. The old man raised one hand jerky, unnatural, like his bones didn't articulate the way bones should, and pointed at my house. Then he opened his mouth. No sound came out, but something did fall. A grain of rice. White, perfect, landing in the snow. Primera, Raine. Didn't think, didn't look back. I sprinted toward my house, up the walkway, fumbled with my keys, shoved the door open, and slammed it shut behind me. I leaned my back against the wood, chest heaving. The house hummed faintly around me, like it was pleased. I didn't want to cry, but the pressure behind my eyes felt like something inside me was about to snap. What do you want? I whispered. No answer, just the radiator clicking, the faint groan of settling pipes, or settling floorboards. I slid down the door until I hit the floor. That's when I noticed the letter. It lay neatly on the doormat, like someone had slipped it under the door while I was inside. My hands shook as I picked it up. No return address, no stamp. Just my name. Primera opened Italiano. Inside, in sharp block letters. Stop looking for him. STOP. Asking questions. You are marked. You have 1 week. Below the text was a symbol too. Circles overlapping with a vertical line running through them. My stomach dropped. The same shape as the rice circle in my pantry. The same shape that had appeared on the last tenant's missing poster. I didn't want to believe it. But now it was undeniable. This wasn't a haunting. This wasn't a cursed house. This was a system, a structure, a process. And I was inside it. That night, I barely slept. Every sound made me flinch. The heater rattled. The floor creaked. Something scratched lightly inside the walls, rhythmic and faint. Around 2:47 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. With a trembling thumb, I picked up. A voice whispered on the other end. Not even. Not even close. Wet, ungoogling. Like lungs filled with water. Room 8. I dropped the phone. It hit the carpet with a dull thud and kept vibrating, the voice continuing to mumble numbers and sounds I didn't understand. The house felt alive around me, breathing with me, listening to me, waiting. I crawled forward and slapped the phone face down to mute Italiano. The whispering finally stopped, but before I could exhale, the floor above me groaned. Heavy footsteps. Slow, deliberate, someone or something was walking in the upstairs hallway. I wasn't alone. Not anymore. I reached for the baseball bat I'd taken from the previous tenant's abandoned closet. Unten a soft creak. The basement door, opening on its own. Again, primera frost. A cold draft slipped across the floorboards, and from the dark, I heard a voice. A man's voice. Tired. Broken. John, please? I knew that voice. I'd heard it once before. From the missing poster, The Last Tenant. He was calling for me from inside the basement. I didn't want to move. Didn't want to breathe. Didn't want to acknowledge the fact that a dead man or a man who was supposed to be gone had just spoken my name from the black mouth of the basement. John, please. The voice cracked in the middle, like something was pulling the sound apart while it tried to form. Not quite human, not quite anything else either. My first instinct was simple. Run. Just run. Out the front door, in tote barefoot if I had to. It didn't matter. Anything was safer than a basement calling my name at 3 a.m. But my legs wouldn't move. Fear pinned me to the floor like a hand pressing down on my spine. The basement door opened wider slowly, hinges whining, wood groaning like the house disliked the motion but allowed it anyway. A wave of cold air rolled out, old and damp. Double wear, and under that cold came another sound. Braiding, too close, deep and rattling. John, the voice dragged the syllable like it had rusty nails between its teeth. Help me! I clutched the baseball bat tighter. Where are you? I whispered, hating the tremor in my voice. Silence. Then, right at the bottom of the stairs, down in the dark, airy, I swallowed hard. Every instinct told me not to go. Every part of me screamed to shut the door and pretend it never happened. But something else pushed back, a strange, heavy pull in my chest. A warmth, a pressure. T-mark. It pulsed like a heartbeat beneath my skin. Thump, thump. Soft at first, then harder, insistent, calling me downward. I shivered. What do you want from me? A low exhale shuddered up from the shadows. Then, they will take you if you don't come. They. I stepped back involuntarily. The door creaked again, almost impatiently. My phone buzzed on the floor loud in the quiet. The sudden sound snapped me out of the trance. Primera grave d'Italiano. A text from an unknown number. Don't go down. 3 seconds later, another. It's not him. Not anymore. I stared at the screen, heart crashing against my ribs. The breathing in the basement changed. Faster, agitated. Joan. Now the voice trembled. Before they find you. Something heavy shifted on the stairs like a foot dragging. That snapped something in me. No, I whispered, backing away. No. No. No, no, no. Asifangere, the basement door slammed fully open, smashing into the wall. A gust of frigid air exploded into the hallway. The breathing turned violent. Hungry and tense. A hand gripped the edge of the doorway, but not a hand shaped the way a hand should be. The fingers were too long, too routine, too many joints. Skin stretched wrong, like it belonged to something wearing a person instead of being one. I stumbled back, nearly tripping over my own feet. Stay! The voice rasped, distorted now, bubbling under pressure. Stay with us. No, get away from me. It didn't listen. A hand tightened on the wood, splintering it. Another hand rose beside it. A head lifted from the dark. If it ever was the last tenant, that was gone now. The jaw hung loose. The skin sagged like wet clay. The eyes were hollow tunnels, moving not by muscle, but by something inside, shifting the skin from underneath. It wasn't coming to me. It was being pushed toward me. Forced out, something behind it was moving too. Something bigger. Primera bolted. I sprinted through the hallway, down the stairs, and grabbed the front doorknob. Looked. What? No, I hadn't locked it. I hadn't touched it. I twisted hard. The knob didn't budge. Inside the basement, a wet thud, a dragging sound, and footsteps. Slow, deliberate, coming up. Come back, the voice pleaded, breaking, cracking, glitching like an audio file corrupted in real time. You're marked. Like me. I pounded the door. Let me out. The house inhaled. I swear to God, the walls flexed inward like lungs filling. And then a whisper brushed the nape of my neck. Not from the basement, from right behind me. You can't leave yet. He spooned around. Nothing there, but the footsteps were louder now, halfway up the stairs. I lunged for the window next to the door, grabbed the lock, shoved it open and climbed through without thinking. Glass scraped my arm, cold air knifed my lungs, but I didn't stop. I dropped into the snow outside, scrambled to my feet, and ran. Barefoot, half-dressed, shaking so hard my teeth clattered. The moment I hit the sidewalk, the mark pulsed again enough to make me gasp. My vision blurred at the edges. From Baineme inside the house, something growled low and deep like a lion forced to whisper. I didn't look back. I sprinted across the street toward the only place with lights on at this hour, the 24-hour 7-Eleven. I burst inside, slipped on a tile, caught myself on a shelf, and the cashier's skinny kid with dark rings under his eyes stared wide-eyed. Dude, he said, "Are you okay? You're bleeding." I looked at my arm. A long, thin cut from the window streaked red down my sleeve. Before I could answer, the automatic doors behind me slid open again. Cold air swept in. The cashier looked past me toward the street. His face twisted, drained. Oh, hell no. What is that? Primera turned. A tall silhouette stood across the road, facing the store. Not moving. Not breathing. Who's to watch in? The same old man in the coat? Only, nah. His head was tilted at a broken angle. His feet hovered an inch off the ground, and his chest caved inward with each unnatural quiver. The boy at the counter whispered, "You know that dude?" "No," I breathed. "I don't." But the truth was worse. Whatever he was, Neume. And he wasn't alone. From the darkness behind him, shapes pulled themselves free from the shadows. Slowly, all facing the store. All facing me. The cashier backed up, hands shaking. Dude, should I call Yeah, I whispered, voice cracking. Call my friend. Please. Now. Okay, what do I say? Tell her, I said, shaking so hard I could barely stand. Tell her the house marked me. And outside. The old man smiled. A wide, splitting smile that tore the skin at the corners of his mouth. I didn't sleep that night. Even after Rachel left, even after the last cruiser rolled away and the street fell back into its usual dead silence, my body refused to shut down. My mind kept replaying the scratches on my door, the quiet tapping sounds in the attic, and the way the hallway light kept dimming, like something pressed its hand against the bulbs. Around 3 a.m., the temperature dropped so suddenly my breath fogged in the living room. It wasn't the AC, it wasn't the weather, it was something else. I was still sitting on the couch when I heard Eat-Along slow scrape across the drywall behind me. Not like a mouse, not like pipes settling. It sounded deliberate, dragging, pulling, almost curious. I didn't move at first. For a moment, my brain refused to accept what my ears clearly recognized, that something was inside my walls. The scraping came again, this time higher, right behind my head. I stood up so fast I nearly tripped over the coffee table. Hello. I don't know why I said it. Maybe I was hoping I'd get nothing back. But the wall answered. 3 knocks. Even, spaced, almost thoughtful. Knock. 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 Not the frantic pounding from last night. Not the warning beats from Rachel's story. This one felt intimate-like, a finger pushing against the other side of a membrane, feeling for the thinnest part. I swallowed hard, chasing the shaking in my hands. I grabbed my phone. I tried to call Rachel. No signal. No bars. No service. Like something thick settled over the house and smothered every frequency trying to get in or out, another scrape crawled up the wall. This time, moving toward the ceiling. I followed it with my eyes. And that's when I noticed it. A hairline crack had formed in the corner where the wall met the ceiling, thin, jagged, and pulsing like a vein. It grew a little, then a little more. Plaster dust drifted down like snowfall. Something was pushing from the other side. I backed into the hallway, keeping my eyes locked on the crack. Stop, I whispered, even though it made 0 sense. But it did stop. The scraping faded. The crack went still. I wasn't comforted, just more terrified. Whatever it was could hear me. My brain kept screaming to run outside, to get in my car, to leave Ashbrook, and never look back. But my legs wouldn't cooperate. Some instinct deeper than fear held me there, a sense that turning my back would be a stupid, irreversible mistake. I grabbed the flashlight from the kitchen drawer. Its beam flickered as soon as I clicked it on. Not tonight, I muttered, tapping it until it steadied. The house felt like it was holding its breath. Every window pane seemed to vibrate with tension, like the glass was waiting for something to hit it from the outside. Or, instead, I took a few steps down the hallway toward the attic pool. If something had been crawling inside the walls, that meant it might have come from above. Or worse, maybe it was still up there. Before I could reach the cord, my bedroom door closed just seconds ago creaked open by itself. The hinges moaned, a slow, painful sound, like door didn't want to open but something behind it pushed anyway. My flashlight trembled in my hand. Inside the room, the shadows bent in a way shadows shouldn't. They leaned, gathering toward the center of the floor like ink being pulled into a drain. 10 scratch. A single line tore across the hardwood floor. Not Cardin. Bernardine. Smoke curled from the fresh mark. I felt a chill crawl up my spine, and I stepped back into the hallway. No, I whispered. Not in here. Not Again. But the floor answered. Another scratch. 10 in order, each one carved itself with deliberate slowness, like invisible claws tracing a message in a language I wasn't meant to read. I didn't wait to see the full word. I bolted to the front door, fumbling with the lock, heart choking my throat, but the lock didn't move. The deadbolt jammed, stiff as stone. I pulled harder. It didn't budge. Something whispered behind me. Not a voice. A breath. Warm, close, too close, y spun around. The hallway was empty, but my bedroom door, still half open, creaked wider. An invitation or a threat? Maybe both. My phone buzzed. For a second, I thought the signal came back, but the screen stayed black. No notification, no call, nothing. The buzzing continued. Then I realized it wasn't my phone. It was the house vibrating. The walls trembled. The floorboards shook like something enormous was moving underneath them. The whole foundation groaned as if the house itself was trying to shift, to twist, to breathe. I stumbled back toward the living room. The vibrating stopped abruptly like a switch had been flipped. Tense silence. Midnight graveyard silence. I thought it was over. Then the whisper came again right behind my ear. 2:13. Primera frost. Every hair on my body lifted. It wasn't a voice I recognized. It wasn't human. It sounded like 100 throats speaking at once, layered in a way that felt physically wrong, like it wasn't meant for human ears. I forced myself to turn around, even though every cell in my body begged me not to. Nothing was there, but the broken hallway light flickered to life, casting a dim cone of yellow onto the wall, and the scratches, the ones carved into my bedroom floor, were finished now. I could see the full word. A single message scorched into the boards. Stay. My stomach dropped. The house didn't want me dead. Not yet. It wanted me here. It wanted me awake. It wanted me watching